You want to start the?
Jai Baba, everybody. Welcome to the Lord Meher book reading.
We need
And
to record. We need to hit record.
Diana, you could start. It's already recording, please, Betty. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so on the 3rd of August 1938, Sampath Iyengar came again from Madras to see Baba. He left the following evening. Rustam had brought Frani from Nasik and kept her in Upasni Maharaj's room at Kushru quarters. Baba saw her on the 3rd on his way back to the PWD and told Rustam to take her back to Nasik, at least for a month. On the 6th, Baba went on a picnic with the women. The next day, Sarosh arranged a special showing at 10 o'clock a.m. at Sarosh Cinema of Mad About Music, a light musical comedy which Baba liked very much. About weaknesses, Baba explained to women, those devotees who have similar weaknesses, similar self-seeking, apparently love each other and apparently do not love the others. But what results is bad. The slavish tendency of depending on moods creeps in. How? Take Narina, for example, who loves me as her beloved and has given up everything to stay near me. However, Narina's moods and weaknesses are similar, say, to Hetty's and not to Kitty's. What happens? Narina and Hetty pass impressions back and forth to one another. Hetty says Baba is so lovely, so beautiful, etc., and Narina reciprocates. But because of weaknesses, Hetty might someday fail in my test of love and give me up. The same Hetty who used to say Baba is this and that might now say Baba is a devil. What happens to Narina? She who had leaned on Hetty's impressions now stands alone, stranded. So devotees must always lean on Baba, not on each other. This does not mean you should not talk to one another, love one another, pass impressions to each other, be together, or share experiences, but you must not lean. You must love, serve, and help one another and make each other love me more. Love, don't lean. It is very difficult for all to love each other equally, but it is not difficult to lean. One remedy? The faith and love must be made so strong that even if all fail and leave me, you do not. Bono and Kitty have similar attitudes. Narina and Hetty have similar attitudes, as do Elizabeth and Narina. So love each other. But if you cannot do this, at least do not hate each other. Pointing to Nadine Tolstoy, Baba concluded, Nadine is most fortunate. She wants to lean, but has no one to lean on. Her nature does not agree with anyone's. She is most loving and wants to do everything for me. She would speak for me even on the top of Mount Everest with only the snow to hear her. As the days went by, problems in completing the construction work on Maribod Hill on schedule loomed over Pendu's head like an ominous cloud. For one thing, Baba and the women Mandali were informed they would have to move out of the PWD bungalow by the 3rd week in August. It was solely because of Sarosh's influence that they had been able to stay in the government accommodation since June, much longer than the normal few weeks. For another, the monsoon rains were upon them, slowing the work considerably. Kali Mama was working with Pendu and Padri, but he was so meticulous, he would tell the workers to tear down a section of a wall they had been erecting all day if it did not meet his standards. Frustrated with Kali Mama, Padre finally quit in disgust and said he was so fed up he was having nothing further to do with the work. The huge steel girders for the second story of the water tank building had to be ordered from Bombay, and this had caused a delay of a month and a half. But the biggest cause of lost time was Baba himself. On his daily visits, usually driven by Adi Sr. in his Opel, not only would work time be lost by the laborers leaving their jobs to pay their respects to him, but moreover, Baba kept adding to the work. He inevitably noticed things and, for example, would tell Pendu, there should be a compound wall around the hospital. Why not add a section here? Don't you think it would be better to have the roof like this? You'd better change it, and so forth. By the first part of August 1930, the dome over the old crypt room and walls were for the most part complete. The old rough stone walls had been torn down and replaced by black stones from the former post office building. This was to become Meher Baba's tomb. 5 small, 4-foot-high meditation cells, similar to the ones of the old Sadhak ashram, were rebuilt out of tin, adjoining the eastern wall of the crypt. And we have a footnote here. As far as is known, these meditation cells were never used. But the maternity home to the north of the tomb was far from ready, and so also the upper story of the water tank. In addition, Baba had wished something distinctive built on top of the tank that could be seen from far away, and Pendu had suggested a tower. But the tower and steps leading up to the second story were still to be built. Pendu asked Baba for more time, but Baba refused. On Saturday, the 6th of August, 1938, Baba arrived at Meherabad with Sarosh and a group of 3 men. Pendu did not know who they were and assumed them to be new devotees. In fact, they were engineers coming to inspect the work and give an estimate as to how much time they would need to complete it. After looking around, they informed Baba that it would take at least 2 more weeks. Baba decided it was better to let Pendu continue and save money by giving him the 2 extra weeks he had originally requested. The next morning, Baba called Pendu and said in a very serious tone, I'm giving you 2 more weeks to complete the work. It must be finished by August 25th. I will have no place to stay. I am being evicted from the PWD, so we have to come to Meherabad. I am coming on the 25th, whether you have finished or not. Pendu looked somewhat worried, and Baba urged him, be brave. Don't feel dejected or despondent with difficulties and inconveniences. Face it all. That's manliness. That's heroism. I don't like things to go smoothly or easily, Baba continued. There is no credit in doing things easily. One must experience resistance, difficulties, and pass through awkward situations. These are real tests and bring out the best and worst in men. The more opposition you have from Maya, the more you should resist and face it with fierce determination. Don't feel anxious. Do your best. Pendu accepted Baba's terms and thought, if I work wholeheartedly, Baba will surely help me. He agreed to do his best, but added, Baba, I will finish everything by the date you wish, but you must also agree to one condition. Don't come here before that date. Each time you come, you add to my work. Baba smiled and extended his hand in promise, saying he would come at 8 o'clock in on the morning of the 25th. The work on Meherabad Hill now had a definite deadline. Pendu arranged a day and a night shift and had a tea stall open to keep the workers, mostly from Arangowan village, fortified. Pendu himself brought his clothes and bedding up the hill and never came down even once during the ensuing 2 weeks. He stopped taking baths and his meals were sent up to him. Everything was done at a breakneck pace. Another footnote. One of the reasons that the steps to the second story of the water tank are so big is that there was not time to do the work well and build them smaller. On the 10th of August, Kakabaria and Araji Dadachanji arrived from Bombay, bringing doors, windows, timber, and 4 concrete models, a Christian cross, a Hindu temple, a Mohammedan mosque, and a Zoroastrian fire. They were fitted onto the corners on top of the tomb. An iron gate for the main entrance had also been fabricated in Bombay and was brought by them. Jal Karawala arrived the next day to see Baba.
Thank you, Diana. Rosalie, could you read next from the top of the page?
I will, but I would like to go back to that "Don't Lean, Love," because I feel it's a like more of a critical thing than the little daily things of their doing.
Can we go back to that at the end of the reading at 9:30?
Sure. Let me look for it.
It's quite towards the beginning, all of that.
Okay.
Don't lean.
Oh, I think this is it, Rosalie.
Okay, let's see. It was towards the end of it, and I just really bothered me what it was put. So if it's what I took it to be, it's okay. Nadina so smart.
Maybe it's the page before.
Yeah, it's the page before. Yeah.
You know, I got to say something here. This is being recorded. This should not be done now. This is something that should be done at the end.
You know, because it is recorded. If it's what I think I read, it's good to address it. You know, that's my strong feeling. Otherwise, I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, we understand, Rosie, but we follow a format since years now. We just read the whole thing.
If you want to do it
after that,
fine.
At the end of it, I promise you we'll get back to this and we'll read it. We'll record this at the end of it. If we don't find it, I hope you understand what we're saying. Because we're wasting time looking for it.
And we're causing this whole thing to have to be edited by probably Angela. I don't know who goes through the final thing, but you can't
honestly
put this up.
Have the time right now.
Okay.
Continue, please.
Well, what about the recording? You said you were.
I've started the recording. Please.
It didn't come on to say that on my iPod. Why?
It's on. It's on.
It's on? Okay. Rao Saheb, who was living in Bombay, also came after a few days to meet Baba. On the 11th, an elderly villager was brought to Meherabad by Dada Patil. The man had a bullock cart, which Pendu had hired to bring materials to Meherabad. But the villager had been stealthily stealing wooden planks from the stockpile on the hill. Baba had come to Lower Meherabad that day, and the man was brought before him. Baba was to punish him. Padre or Pendu would have whipped any thief. But what was Baba's justice? Baba sentenced him to go to every house in the village with the stolen planks on his head and to tell all that he had stolen this property from Meher Baba. Dada Patil was to follow him and make sure he did it at every house, and then report back to Baba. The old man asked forgiveness and said he would do as Baba ordered, but begged not to have to carry the heavy planks on his head, and Baba relented. Erich's cousins, the Sata boys, had come that day, and Baba met them and asked about their school. When they said they had a holiday that day because of Shravan, Hindu month of festivals, Baba quoted the Buddha, who said, "I am eternally free and eternally bound." Gaimai's brother, Nashaman Satta, came with Kaka Chinchorkar on the 17th and were shown the Mad Ashram and the new buildings on the hill. Baba arrived that morning with Adi's father, Khan Sahib, who was also given a tour. Khan Sahib was impressed that he saw Baba serving the must, cutting their hair, cleaning their latrines, bathing and feeding them. Murthy was staying in Bombay at this time studying homeopathy, and Baba sent Adi Sr. there on the 19th to persuade him to return to Meherabad. Adi returned on the 22nd, but without Murli, which greatly displeased Baba. At the women's quarters in Ahmednagar, a mangy dog had wandered into their compound, and Baba had it kept. It was ill, and Baba called Mansari and asked her to look after it. Mansari, who at that time had a strong aversion to dogs, said, "But I haven't come here to serve a dog. I've come to serve you." Baba looked at her as if to say, "Oh, really? I never thought of that." He then called Gaimai and asked her the same thing in front of Mansari. Of course, Gaimai said, "I will gladly look after it." "But it is a mangy, diseased animal. You'll have to bathe it," Baba spelled out. "You haven't left your fine home and everything else to come and serve a dog." "But it is now your dog, Baba," Gaimai answered correctly. Gesturing to Mansari, Baba pointed to his ear, conveying, "Did you hear what she said? Learn from this." The Hindu festival of Rang Panchami was celebrated in the PWD bungalow. The women dressed Baba as Krishna, and they, including the Westerners, dressed as gopis. Baba took part in the celebration, urging them to dance and spraying them with the traditional colored water. It was as if Lord Krishna had descended and was playing with his beloved gopis once again. Age marveled at the enchanting sight. The beloved was imparting wine to the thirsty world by entertaining his gopis. Friday, 19th August, 1938, was celebrated as Lord Krishna's birthday, and Baba narrated the story of Krishna and the Pandavas to the Westerners. He ended with these remarks: "The fun of it all is that you who stay with me, who are with me all day, feel I am one of you. So the importance of reverence is naturally nullified, and in its place comes either love or ordinary familiarity. Now, if it is love, you are unconsciously trying to become like me. But if it is only familiarity, then you are trying to make me like you. So love, and then you will become like me." During this period, Padre once brought a koal to the PWD bungalow to meet Baba. Baba met with him for a while, and the man said, "How great is my luck that I have met you today. I wish someday to compose ghazals and sing them before you, Hazrat." Baba replied, "If you want to sing, sing now, as I am in the mood to listen to music." But the man said, "Hazrat, forgive me. Now is the time for my namaz. I must leave or I'll be late." Baba motioned, "Then go and offer your prayers." The Kowal left to go to the mosque, and Baba caustically remarked, "People don't want God, they want namaz. What can poor God do? God wants to give them God, but they want to pray." Age too lamented, "Formless God has taken form, but not everyone who prayed to God recognized him in form." The days went by quickly, and the work on the hill was nearly completed. The only thing remaining was to finish putting Mangalore tiles on some section of the roof. The very last night, a small section over the southern room of the water tank was still to be tiled. Kalimama came to Pendu and said, "We've run out of tiles. The only ones left are broken." Pendu had an idea and called sailor's son Dinshaw, who was staying at Meherabad, to help by driving a pickup truck up and down the hill hauling materials. Pendu told Dinshaw to go down to Lower Meherabad and direct the workers to remove tiles from the roof of the Mandalis' quarters to cover the water tank roof. This they did, and the work was finished by 4:30 a.m. Pendu went down to Lower Meherabad and handed over the keys of the new building to Padri, telling him to give Baba the keys when he came. Pendu had not slept for days and was exhausted. He went to his room and tried to sleep, but thoughts kept him awake as he reviewed each building, trying to remember anything left undone. Accompanied by all the Eastern and Western women, Baba shifted everyone to Meherabad Hill, arriving promptly at 8 a.m. on Thursday, 25th August, 1938. He took the keys from Padri and went up the hill to see the new buildings. Footnote: after the second floor and tower were added to the water tank building, it was renamed the MEHER Retreat. Baba was so pleased that before assigning the Western women their quarters, he came back down to congratulate Pendu. Standing on the veranda outside Pendu's room, Baba conversed with Padri. Pendu overheard Padri, got out of bed and came out. Smiling, Baba embraced and kissed him, indicating to him how immensely happy he was, how pleased with the work. "I came again specially to see you. The Westerners are still standing outside with their luggage waiting for me, but first I had to see you." Baba also praised Kalimama and now Roji for their help in completing the work on time. As an expression of his appreciation, on Sunday the 28th, Baba held a celebration in their honor at 3 p.m. Sitting outside his tomb, Baba garlanded the three main workers. A feast was arranged in the village, and Baba was taken there in a grand procession. The Arangawan villagers had his darshan, and Baba handed out prasad to all. Congratulating Pendu, Sarosh expressed everyone's feelings at the time, saying, "Pendu, my hat's off to you. You did it.
Thank you. Eva, can you read next?
Sure.
Thanks.
But in spite of Pendu's hard labor, he could be difficult to deal with. Adi Sr. raised this issue on the 27th, stating that Pendu was partial to Vishnu and Padri, and all three excluded him from different decisions. Everything was brought out in the open in front of Baba, and their differences sorted out. Baba agreed with Adi to some extent and commented that those who had become estranged and left, Rao Saheb and Karim, had not done so because of Baba, but because of differences with the other Mandali. Baba had been discussing plans with the women about starting a maternity home on Meherbad Hill when they shifted there, and about reviving a magazine dedicated to him. On 29 August 1938, Baba convened a meeting with the women on Meherbad Hill from 7:30 to 9:10 a.m. and assigned duties to all, stating, "There are to be 4 departments for you women to oversee: the kitchen, the servants, the hospital, and the magazine. The kitchen. Gaime should manage it. She should order all requisite items and ingredients from the market through Vishnu and cook for all the women with the help of Manu. Every day, Kitty will tell Gaimai what is to be cooked for the Westerners. The 2 maid servants, Tani and Bahami, should work only in the kitchen, and another servant, Sev, should work in Baba's kitchen, where MEHER was to cook. The servants. Kitty should supervise the 7 servants and the toilet sweeper, Zora. She should see that the servants come and go on time. Every room should be cleaned daily, and each maid should carry out her duty as instructed by Baba. Rahi and the new servant should keep the bathrooms clean and work in the garden. For household work, laundry, and for cleaning the corn and grains, the other servants, Chandar, Lakshi, Soni, Shanta, and Sundar, should divide the work among themselves. The hospital, located behind the tomb and cabin on the hill. It will house 10 female patients. Nadine should be the chief matron. The dates of arrival and departure of every patient should be registered. And for every patient, a detailed report should be kept. Irene, Mansari, and Meheru Jasawala should care for the patients by bathing, clothing, and feeding them. Mansari is to supervise cooking for the patients. A woman doctor will come once a day, and a qualified, experienced nurse will be on duty. 6 separate women servants will be employed for the hospital. The magazine and other duties. The magazine, to be called Meher Baba Journal, is entrusted to Elizabeth, Norina, and Noni. They will be given offices in the hospital quarters. Sunamasi is to keep watch at the main gate. She is the gatekeeper to heaven. She should wake Lakshi up at 5 a.m. and have the toilets cleaned by Zora. Kitty should see that Zora cleans the Western women's toilets. When purchases of food from the bazaar arrive, Masi is to notify Gaimai, and Gaimai should send Bahami to carry them inside. When heavy sacks of coal or grain are brought, Masi should ask Kitty for servants to help. Rano is to look after anyone who is ill among the group. All medicines to be dispensed by her at the proper intervals. If an Eastern woman becomes ill, Gaimai should look after her diet. And if it is a Westerner, Irene should see to her food. Rano is also to serve as house carpenter. Footnote. Rano had also drawn an illustration of a banyan tree, the tree of knowledge, which was to be used as the cover for the Meher Baba journal. The following rules were laid down at this time. Concerning water here, there is always a scarcity of rain. Every year the wells get low. There is only one well for the must ashram here and the hospital. There must be no waste, so use water only as Baba orders. When washing, turn on the tap, take water and turn it off. Do not leave the tap on. Baths are to be taken every other day, Gaimai every day. Each is allowed half a pail of very hot water. For washing here, 1.5 bucketfuls of very hot water are permitted. No one should enter Baba's compound without him or without his permission. Only Walu should clean Baba's cabin on the hill. Helen is to paint the inside of Baba's future tomb, but she should not work after 7 p.m. No one should climb the water tank tower without Baba. No one should step out of the compound without Baba's permission or without being accompanied by him. Compound means outside of the wall. Those working in the hospital and Meher Baba Journal office are exempt from this. All should sleep under mosquito nets. No one is to call a servant without first asking Kitty. Anyone taking medicine, tonic, milk, orange juice, etc., at odd hours must wash her own cup, glass, or spoon and replace where they belong. List for buying things to be given to Gaimai, marked to pay or not to pay. Letters and telegrams are to be given only to Baba once a day when Baba goes down the hill in the morning. No one is to place anything on the ping pong table. Meals are at the following times: breakfast, 6:45 a.m., lunch, 11:30 a.m., tea, 2:30 p.m., supper, 6 p.m. Later that same day, Adi Sr. brought an army major named Gulshar and his wife to Meherabad for Baba's darshan. The wife openly asked Baba to bless her with the sun, and he handed her a flower petal and asked her to eat it, which she did. But Baba told her, "You have all kinds of desires, and they bring you unhappiness. I have no desire, and I am always happy and never get upset. I experience Baba in you all and in everything. If you think I know everything, There is no need to express any want. If you think I know nothing, no amount of pleading for any ambition is of avail. And footnote. The Gulshars returned to Meherbad and saw Baba again on 21 September 1938. On 30 August 1938, Baba went for dinner at Akbar Press with Gulmai. Adi Sr. drove them. That day, Ghani arrived from Pune, where he had been on holiday for 12 days since completing his job of supervising the building of the compound wall. He, along with Dahak, Chanji, and Adi Sr., worked on producing the journal in an office on the hill. The journal was to be printed at Mohan Press in Ahmednagar, run by Nusirwan Sata and R.B. Hare. And Adi and Ghani went there on 13 September to check on the binding of the journals. Adi was late in returning and forgot he was supposed to pick up Baba at 4:30, as he was to go to Akbar Press again for dinner that day. Baba was furious and berated them both. He almost beat Ghani, Adi wrote in his diary. But Baba also liked to tease Ghani and other close ones. He would call Sunamasi a barber, an insult in India meaning someone barbaric. One day she retorted, "It would have been nice had I really been a barber. Then at least I would have been able to hold your face in my hands once in a while." Memo would visit Baba and the women at Meherabad for a few days every month and then return to Pune. She arrived with Jalbhai on 5 September and returned on 11 October with Bayram and Perrin. Once she told the women, "Don't address Marag as God, and don't garland him for heaven's sake. He will have pride, his ego will become inflated, and he will fall into the pit of arrogance." Overhearing her counsel, Baba declared, "But I really am God." "You may be God," she conceded, "but you are still my child. After all, I have given you birth." "Have you given me birth?" he inquired rhetorically. "It was I who first gave you birth, and then you bore me. I was your mother in the beginning of creation, and now you are my mother." "How could you ever have been my mother when you harass me so much?" Memo lamented. "Because of you, I cannot show my face anywhere in Pune. Society ridicules me, and I have to sit back and put up with it all." Baba replied, "But to put up with it all is very good for you." Memo scowled and then, referring to the Jesawala family, said, "Marag, do you have any sense? Why did you send for such a happy family? They are from a wealthy background. What will these poor dears' condition be here?" "Here they will learn what is happiness and what is sorrow," Baba replied. During this period, before retiring for the night, Baba would embrace each of the women mandali at 9 o'clock. No sooner would Baba begin doing this than Memo would walk off and go to her room. Baba would then have to go there to embrace her. He would ask, "Why do you leave? I have to come all the way here to say goodnight to you." Memo replied, "You aren't troubled to embrace others and complain only about coming to embrace me." As Baba was about to leave after embracing her, Memo would call him back on some pretext. This happened 4 or 5 times. Finally stepping out, Baba declared to the others, "See how, even though I am God, I serve my mother." Memo loved Baba with all her heart, and if anyone in Pune said anything derogatory against him in her presence, she would boldly chastise them. Most of the Parsis and Iranis were dead set against Meher Baba, but Memo would tell them, "Marak is my God. Remember, you will be destroyed if you speak against him. Bow down at his feet if you have any sense. He is Zoroaster."
Thank you, Eva.
You're welcome.
Eugene, can you read next? Thank you.
Gulmai was staying at Upper Mehrabad at this time, and when Memo visited there would inevitably be strife between these two women. Shireen Mai, the material mother, and Gulmai, the spiritual mother. On one occasion, 19 October 1938, Adi Sr. noted in his diary, "Shireen Mai, as usual, becomes jealous of Gulmai, and Baba is so much troubled by the situation. He suffers." But oftentimes, among the men and women mandali, Baba would create rivalries so that the quote unquote rubbish in their minds would come out in the open and be swept away. Such conflicts were a part of Baba's work to eliminate the ego and lead his followers along the path toward truth. On one occasion in September 1938, Baba explained to the women about detachment, stating, "I am in all, in both big and petty things. All are nothing, so why give importance to anything? I take as much enjoyment in looking after the mad, being with the mandali, ordering my agents, looking after the great universal work, as in bringing eggs to Hedi and mail for you all. You cannot escape petty things, because everything except God is petty. What you can do is to be detached. Use the petty things, but know they are petty, and so remain unattached to them. For example, false teeth are for eating. They are attached in your mouth. You know they are false, and you can take them out. Attached and detached, you make use of them. The dirty body, which I call the walking latrine, is used for the soul to realize itself. Can you escape from it? You cannot escape its perspiration. So what you do is wash away the sweat. But if all day you go on brooding, "Why do I perspire? I must not perspire," it is of no use. You cannot escape, but you can become detached. On 2 September, when explaining to the women about love, Baba narrated this story about the ancient Persian king Ghaznavi. Muhammad Ghaznavi had a slave named Ayaz, who loved him very much. He obeyed the king in every detail and carried out all of his behests. Ayaz had no care for his own life, and to keep Ghaznavi happy, would do anything. But because the king loved Ayaz more, the other courtiers were jealous and could not tolerate the king's expression of love for his slave. The king knew all about this. He once gathered his courtiers around him and, placing before them a valuable pearl, ordered them to break it into pieces with a stone. They were bewildered and thought the king had gone mad to order the destruction of such a valuable gem. Not one of them was willing to obey the king. Ghaznavi then called Ayaz and ordered him to destroy the pearl. Ayaz immediately carried out the order, shattering the pearl to pieces. Ghaznavi said, Ayaz values my word more than the pearl. What value has a gem before my words? He does anything I tell him and respects my commands. He knows nothing other than to treasure and fulfill my orders and keep my pleasure. Because he loves me so much, I love him most of all. In your eyes, the pearl is valuable, but in the eyes of Ayaz, the worth of my words and my pleasure is more. After the story, Baba concluded with these remarks. If you want to be worthy of my love, be like Ayaz. But at the moment, you are not like Ayaz, but like piyaz, which are onions. Because every time I handle you, I weep. Starting in August 1938, the Swiss artist Helen Daum was painting colorful murals on the inside walls of Meher Baba's crypt. She was absorbed in her work from morning to evening. Although Helen was not a young woman, she was 60 at the time. Out of love, she worked on her back on top of scaffolding to paint the dome's ceiling. Hedy Martins, also a painter, would assist Helen by mixing her paints. But Helen did the actual painting of the figures. It was only when Baba ordered Pendu to build a dome over this crypt that everyone came to know this was to be the site of his future tomb. This was the room where Baba had secluded himself in 1927 and where he had the Prem Ashram boys drink from the cup of his love. It was also where he would spend the night until the tin cabin was built on the hill in 1935. All became aware that the underground pit was to house his last physical remains, and they regarded this humble structure with added sacredness. Hedy had left her children behind in Switzerland in her husband Walter's care. Her relatives, perhaps in an effort to get her to come home, once wrote that two of Hetty's young children had a serious case of pneumonia. Narina came into the room as Hetty was reading the letter and took her to Baba, who was informed of the situation. Hetty told Baba that she was not concerned, as Baba had taken responsibility for her family. Baba was pleased by her attitude. He laughed as he told her, "I can see your children now. They are sitting in lawn chairs underneath a sun umbrella. Their grandmother is with them, and Walter is taking their picture. The youngest one has his finger in his nose." 3 weeks later, Hetty received another letter, and in it was a photograph, exactly as Baba had described. The children under a sun umbrella, and the youngest with his finger up his nose. During this period, Baba called Homi Mama Sata, his wife Pila, and their two daughters, Alu and Dun, to Meherabad. They had another daughter, Roshan, but she was only a year old and was left at Akbar Press. Baba informed Pila, Alu, and Dun that he would permit them a stay in Meherabad turn by turn for one day. Dun was only 9 years old, but she boldly spoke up, saying, "You have let Guy, my auntie, you have let Guy, my auntie, stay here with you. Why not me?" Guy Mai pinched her to keep quiet, which Dun unabashedly reported to Baba. To console her, Baba allowed Dun to stay for 8 days. During that week, as the time approached for her departure, Dun kept begging Baba to extend her stay by 1 day more, to which he agreed. That day, a boil appeared on her foot, and Nilu said he would need to incise it. Baba told Dun, "Now tomorrow Nilu will have to cut off your foot." Dun got frightened and said she wanted to go home. As soon as she was back at Akbar Press, the boil went away by itself. Later, she realized how Baba had tricked her into leaving Meherabad. On Tuesday, 19 September 1938, one of the Western women questioned, "Why do we suffer?" Baba dictated this reply: "Why should we be born?" To take birth means to suffer. When suffering leads to real, eternal happiness, we should not attach importance to this suffering. It is to eliminate suffering that suffering has to be. Most of this suffering is unnecessary and self-inflicted. 99% of the world's suffering is self-inflicted. Yet they ask, why must we suffer? Great suffering means great liberation. What is ignorance if not suffering? War is no special suffering. Don't people suffer all the time? It is universal suffering which leads to war. People suffer because they are not satisfied. They want more and more. Ignorance gives rise to greed and vanity. If you were to want nothing, would you then suffer? But you do want. If you did not want anything, you would not suffer even in the jaws of a lion. Even without war, everyone suffers physically. Mental suffering is worse than physical suffering. What the people of the world with limited vision think of suffering is only physical. They draw pictures of a bomb-stricken person, nose off, arm off, leg off, etc. Sometimes physical suffering tends to ease mental suffering. The world's idea of suffering and of happiness is entirely limited. Happiness, you have no idea of that real happiness, is worth all the physical and mental suffering of the universe. Then all suffering becomes as if it were not. It was due to ignorance. Ignorance makes you jump at the sight of a cockroach. Real happiness does not make you feel the teeth of a tiger in your body. Can I pass the baton?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Eugene. Marvin, could you read next? Thank you.
Even those who are not God realized and have not knowledge, they too can control their minds to such an extent that nothing makes them feel pain and suffering, even being buried alive. One yogi who had not even the smell of knowledge had himself thrown into a tub of boiling oil. Through his yogic power, not only did he not feel the pain, but his skin was not even a little burned. This is not the spirit's or mind's control over matter. It is even lower. It is breath control. When I talk of knowledge, it is not ordinary knowledge. It is experience of Godhood. Knowledge of God means becoming God. Then all else is zero. When the master comes down from Godhood to normal consciousness, the master brings down God. He is not aloof from God for 1 second, but he has to be on the same level of all. So he eats, drinks, and suffers. All this does not affect him personally, but universally. Since the Westerners were from a Christian background, there would often be questions about Jesus. Baba had already explained that Jesus did not die on the cross, and one of them asked, did Christ suffer physically on the cross? Baba answered, if not, why the body? What need for Jesus if he was not affected? Christ suffered. If not, what would be the meaning of his taking form? Through his universal mind, which the knowledge of Godhood continually gives, Jesus experienced that all is nothing and was sustained by the Godhood's bliss. He suffered, but was not affected by his suffering. Knowledge means perfect union with God. The master's suffering is universal suffering, but his universal suffering has no effect on the master's Godhood. How to explain what happens when you become God realized? No more body, mind, ego, no more universe. Only you as God experiencing bliss. You then experience knowledge too, power too, but you do not use power. You are with this power, this knowledge, this bliss. You are one with this power, this knowledge, this bliss. When you come down for the world, you take a universal mind. You take on a universal mind. Now, as God, you see all souls as your own. You see yourself in everything, and your universal mind has all minds in it as one mind. What every mind suffers comes into your mind. Your mind suffers the suffering of all minds and experiences the happiness of all minds. But as ignorance exists in all minds, the suffering is infinitely more than the happiness of those minds. Therefore, you suffer infinitely. However, your soul, which is fully conscious and enjoys God's bliss continually, and which is also enjoying its infinite state, is not affected by this suffering. Now, you, as soul, in your present state, are unconscious of God and God's bliss. Your mind now suffers or is happy according to your impressions. Soul, as it were, is not affected because through ignorance your soul is identified with your mind. After attaining knowledge, your soul consciously experiences God's bliss. If you come down, your mind then experiences suffering or happiness, but soul is not affected. You are soul. When your mission is complete, the universal mind goes, and with it, universal suffering goes. Then soul enjoys God's bliss eternally. By knowing, I mean you must experience to know. This war is necessary suffering, but most of the world's suffering is unnecessary and self-inflicted. Of those who was unnecessarily suffering, one of those who was unnecessarily suffering was Rao Saheb. He had written recently complaining about Baba's harsh, indifferent attitude towards him. On the 16th, Baba sent him this reply. May Lily, Rao's name for Baba, have mercy on you because Lily loves you in spite of your certain weaknesses. Ferdowsi could not have written what you in your Shahnameh of complaints have written about imaginary cruelty and illusory injustice. Footnote says, Ferdowsi, AD 1010, was a Persian poet whose great epic Shahnameh relates the history of Persia. What you call tyranny is nothing but my expression of love. Must I not take interest in you and warn you to keep away from doing acts of weakness? And because I warn you, you think it is persecution. What you suffered was for the betterment of your inner life. Your vision is limited, and my control over things is unlimited. You attach importance to what you have sacrificed for me. I ask for what you have sacrificed. I ask for what you have not sacrificed for me. You want to attach a price to the priceless, and I bring to you what is unattainable. You naturally, from your low human level, magnify the petty grievances, while I await your preparedness to ask for real suffering. Your outlook is barren, mine fertile. So, dear boy, know that what I do is for your good because I love you. You will not become blind, do not worry. I will never punish you in that way. In fact, I never punish anyone. You will not have to suffer again in that way, like your last physical suffering. I guarantee you that. So cheer up and be brave, and send me a good boy immediately. Footnote, Baba was referring to the ideal or perfect boy that he was still in search of, and that different Mandalis, such as Rao Saheb, Shagan, and Jalbai, were to find and bring to him.
Thank you, Marvin. Betty, could you read next?
A week later, on 22nd September 1938, Baba further wrote to Rao Sahib, I love strong men, strong in mind, strong in heart, and strong in spirit. Body does not matter. So those whom I love, I want them to be strong. I love you, so I want you to become strong. So I always warn you, threaten you, to keep away from weaknesses? Why don't you like my taking interest in you? Does it mean, oh, excuse me, I've got a phone in the background. I'll be right back.
Marvin, continue, please. Thank you.
Sorry. Why don't you like my taking interest in you? Does it mean that because you are physically away, you are no longer mine? You always childishly say, Baba is all-knowing, all-powerful, and whatever bad or good we do is by his will. Well, if that is so, then all the suffering and happiness is also by Baba's will. Why then are you not satisfied with your lot? I want you to know once and for all, I love you, and that whatever I do is for your ultimate spiritual good. As I said in my last letter, I definitely guarantee that you won't suffer physically as you did last. Also, you won't become blind. But if you break my order, the suffering will come on me. So be brave and try not to break the order. Try to be here on the 24th and 25th. If not, at least on the 25th. And positively bring the Udli, ideal boy, with you. The boy required should be alert, bright, intelligent, quick-moving, and above all, pleasing in appearance. But don't bring any Chinese or Japanese ones like you did the last time. Rao Sahib later wrote to Baba that he was feeling very depressed. He claimed he had lost his blind faith in Baba. Soon after, Baba sent him this brief message. I'm glad your blind faith has been shattered because now a full-eyed faith will take its place. 36 musts and mad were staying at Lower Meherabad at this time, and Baba was occupied in serving them. Pleader had been summoned from Benares in late May, a few months ahead of schedule. He and Baidul were the supervisors of the Must and Mad ashram, carrying out their duties according to Baba's instruction. Baba would cut the hair of the Musts and Mad and bathe, shave, and feed them himself. Next page. Most of the Mandalis, such as Pendu, Padri, Sidhu, and Vishnu, were also engaged in work related to the Must ashram. Dr. Nilu had a medical dispensary and was treating the poor free of charge. Chagan was the master's night watchman. Masaji was the cook, and Kali Mama was in charge of construction work. Officially without any duties, Gustaji was seemingly happily unoccupied in the joy of his silence. On 21st August, Baba had instructed Pleader to rehearse the Musts and Mad to perform a play about King Gopi Chand. Footnote there. Gopi Chand was a Hindu king who had an overpowering experience of God and renounced his kingdom. The play depicted his pure character. Okay. Baba had given them 1 month. It was a strange order and extremely difficult to carry out. How could the Musts and Mad be made to act in a play? But according to Baba's wish, Pleader devoted himself wholeheartedly to the task. With great exhortation, he began rehearsing these unconventional actors, painstakingly teaching them their lines. Erich and Homi helped Pleader produce the play. Pleader rented costumes from Pune. and a stage with floodlights and backdrop was erected at Lower Meherabad for the production. On Sunday, 25th September 1938, Raja Gopi Chand was enacted, and lovers from Bombay, Pune, Nasik, and Ahmednagar came for the unique performance, including Rustom, Goher, and the Dada Chanji girls. The women Mandali from Upper Meherabad also attended. None had ever seen anything quite like this. The Must played their parts so well. The audience was amazed at how good they were. The Godman Ashram special program was Baba's Arti, then the song Graceful Nazar, sung by the God Mad Men, singing and music by Hanuman Sangeet group of girls, special song, This is the Divine Court of Sri Meher Baba by Babu the singer, drama, Raja Gopichand performed by the God Mad Men, poems by Shamlu the Shayer, the crack poet of the Mad Ashram. Footnote, a shayer is a reciter of Urdu couplets or shares. Close. Plain Talks with Baba by Lal Sahib, the leader of the ashram, and Shamlu, the shayer. Bhajam program, and finally song, I Dedicated My Heart at the Feet of Baba by Babu. The full program was performed by the inmates of the Mad and Must Ashram. It was a marvelous event in this avataric advent, never to be seen again. How could musts be made to act when they are unconscious of their physical bodies? How could mad persons be controlled to participate in a play? Yet both groups did so to near perfection, as if professional actors. It was an unequaled spectacle, the result of nothing but the master's Leela, his own divine play.
Thank you, Betty. Vijayji, would you like to read next?
Yes. Jai
Thank you.
Baba. 1949, Nasik and Kent. Baba was very pleased and embraced pleaders, saying, Today my work is done, and on this stage of the universe, I give you my embrace. 2 days after the play, on 27th September, 18 of the 36 inmates were sent away to their respective towns or villages. Although this left 18 in the Mast and Mad ashram. Muhammad Mast was the main occupant at this time, and he received most of Baba's attention. Muhammad would take hours in everything he did, to eat, bath, dress. Every physical function was torturous for those who cared for him, and all the caretakers had been ordered to comply with his every whim and wish. As with every avataric action, Baba explained that the play and the departure of the inmates were connected with world conditions. War in Europe seemed inevitable. Baba had said that he would make a definite decision about it after the Musk play. A few days before, he had remarked, Hitler is a coward. The day Baba sent away the first inmates, he remarked to the woman, all Europe is preparing for war, but they don't know what we, the Avatar and the Perfect Masters, have decided. It means war. Russia, France, and England against Germany, Italy, and others. The following afternoon, Baba again mentioned the war. India will help, all countries will help. Germany, Italy, France, Russia, many others will join. Everywhere, people are worried. All imagine how it will be when bombs fall on top of them. How my agents are now working. Very busy. China and Japan are both fighting. All speculating. The Negus, Haile Selassie, Emperor of Abyssinia, now planning to get his country back from Italy. The time is near. The world is in chaos. That is why I declare publicly in the magazine article, I am the avatar. It is a good article. You must remember what I said in that article. There are always 56 God realized souls. Now, out of these 56, 5 Sadgurus are put into the world. But in every avataric period, these 5 become one in demonstrating the cycle when the avatar appears in form. So, the avatar exists in the heart of these 5 as one. These 5 are God realized like the avatar. All are one, but in short, in the avataric period, the avatar is equal to 5 Sadgurus. Thus, 5 Sadgurus make one avatar. That is the long and short of it. So, if the Sadgurus were to show their hearts, you would find me in them.
Thank you, Vijay.
Welcome.
Meher Kiran, would you like to read next? Okay, all right. The 5 are always alive. Baba Jan left her body. The one in her place need not necessarily be in Pune, but there must be 5 in the world. So Pune might give place, all right, way to Madras. When we tour India, you will see many saints and also 5 Sadgurus. Many saints will come when we tour. In each place, mostly a different type of saint. We shall go to Banaras and stop there for 4 days. The saints will come to me. This will be a public reception before I speak, and it will take place while the war is in full swing. Baba ended enigmatically. Now be ready for a big surprise on October 7th. The next day he added, my surprise has nothing to do directly with the war or peace. This would be no surprise. War will be there, he declared. This is as certain as anything. On 29th September 1938, the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain signed what was known as the Munich Agreement with Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini in an attempt to make peace with Germany and Italy to avoid war. In effect, turning over Czechoslovakia to Germany, Baba commented on Chamberlain's action. It won't work. There will definitely be war. During the First World War, the British Army had come to Arangau and turned it into a military camp, which later became Mehrabad. In the course of conversation on the morning of 30th, Pandu informed Baba rumors of impending war are rampant. If war breaks out, you have to vacate Mehrabad for 24 hours.
You're breaking up. I think somebody should take
Notice and hand over all new structures.
I think maybe somebody should take over, starting with during the First World. You're breaking up. Ooh.
I'll take it. During the First World War, the British Army had come to Arangown and turned it into a military camp, which later became Meherabad. In the course of conversation on the morning of the 30th, Pendu informed Baba, rumors of impending war are rampant. If war breaks out, we will have to vacate Meherabad at 24 hours' notice and hand over all these new structures. Baba smiled and replied calmly, we will see. No one is going to occupy it just now. You mean there won't be a war? Pendu asked. How can you grasp what I mean? What connection does war have with the structures here? There is a connection since, in the eventuality of war, we will have to hand over everything to the army at 24 hours' notice. And then where will you keep the women who have been in strict seclusion all the time, according to your order? Baba again smiled and commented, you seem to be very clever. Let's drop the subject for now. Attend to the work I've given you. However, later the same day, Baba, to the women, Baba stated, there will be war, whether it starts in February or in November or December. It is no concern of ours.
Marvin, we'll end it here. It's
Okay.
9:30 now, so we'll
All right.
start here from next week. I shall stop the recording now, and